everybody. How's it going? Can you guys hear me? That is the question. How's everybody doing tonight? Awesome. Hey, look at this. I'm getting better at this. Yes. All right. How's everybody doing tonight? Doing good? Let's see, Chris, Peter, AJC, Mark, Houseplants, Alex. Hey, a lot of the usual suspects. So, anyways, we're just gonna have a little chat tonight. Nothing too crazy planned. I got some ideas. Good, Chris. I'm glad you're doing good, man. Got some ideas from the YouTube community posts. If any of you haven't checked it out, I do try to stay semi-active in the community on the House of Vacuums YouTube page. So I'll usually pull what we want to talk about tonight through the community tab. So it's a way to keep it all in the family, so to speak, the subscriber family. Yeah, but anyways, we're growing this thing. It's getting good. Let's see. So first on the docket, let's go ahead and talk real quick about a question that was posed by. Let me find who posed it here. It was posed by Metal God. How about what's your favorite vacuum and why, and also a bit of history on how you got started in the business. So I'll start with my favorite vacuum. This changes frequently. Chris, we know you stay active in the YouTube community page. Yeah, I try. So anyways, heading over here, I'm going to go ahead and share this real quick. So I got this all pulled up. My favorite vacuum, it changes frequently, but my favorite vacuum that I keep coming back to over and over again is the S6000 series Miele, particularly the quartz, because that's the one that I own, and it is it's the perfect vacuum. It really is. Like, there's just no doubt about it. It's small, it's compact, it's powerful, it's well made. It has all the features of a big Miele, but in a small, teeny tiny little package. They're just absolutely fantastic. So mine is the quartz. I got it on a trade-in from somebody who traded up, and they were getting carpets. So they traded up to a C1 Classic, and I snagged it. It was a cream puff. I could have resold it, but I didn't want to. I take this thing to the beach when we do our week at the beach every year. It has a turbo head on it now. I put an STB 300 on it, so that thing just cleans like a beast on everything except for high pile. So I put a turbo nozzle on it. I've got the parquet tool on it. I don't use the I use the what is it? What's the parquet tool? The twister. Anywho, I can't remember the number right now. I'm drawing a blank, but I use that on it. I don't use this combo tool. I hate those things. So yeah, I take it to the beach. I use it in my basement shop. I use it to clean the basements. Yeah, and it's just, I put it through heck, and it holds up. Let me talk you through some of the reasons why I like this machine so much, other than, of course, what I've already mentioned, the compactness, the feature set of a larger machine in a small package. I also love the fact that it's not an electric hose. As convenient as those are for a lot of purposes, I love the flexibility, how flexible this non-electric hose is. I love how easy it is to disconnect up at that 90-degree handle. I also love the handle. The handles are great on those. They're long, they're narrow, they're easy to get into tight spaces. Um, yeah, they're just perfect. And I throw a HEPA filter on it because I want it to catch as much junk as possible. So yeah, gosh, I literally use this vacuum for everything, and I absolutely love it. Now, this is no longer current production. For a while, they were available as the C2, and that has been discontinued. So it may be a situation where they bring it back as a special model or something like that. Miele's been known to do that. They did that with the S5s. So so it's possible, but as of right now, out of production. So if you want to know my favorite current in production vacuum, that would be the Sebo E3. That is what I use for our flooring at home. My wife has a Miele Brilliant, and she likes that. It's fine. It's not my cup of tea. To me, everything about the Sebo is just well made, well designed. Again, I love the way that it's built, so that's what kind of gets me on it. So let's see. Michael's asking a question about the vacuum. Yeah. Houseplants. Yeah, this is the vacuum I travel with. I do travel with the vacuum, particularly to the beach because I've got 3 little kids, and they are always just like dragging sand into the car and into the house, and it's just a hot mess, and I can't handle it. So I always bring a vacuum because because like one year there was like an old beat up sanitaire at the house, and then the next year we got a different house, and it was like this horrific bagless Bissell. I can't do it. So I can't slum like that. Plus I got to clean out my car. Um, so anyways, but my current favorite in production vacuum is the E3, and yeah, it's the compact size but full size features. I have the ET1 on it, the power nozzle, and it runs and cleans fantastic. If there's one thing I could change about it, I would put 2 casters on the front of the ET1 where the height adjustment is, because it does track when you're pulling back. It does dog walk a little bit, which is a little bit annoying. Fortunately, I don't have a lot of carpeting. Um, but it does it doesn't pull straight back. It likes to kind of walk to the side, which I have gotten used to it. But that is the probably the only thing I would change about the whole package. So there you go. Those are my favorite vacuums. But yeah, the quartz I keep coming back to. Alex, performance reviews, you know this. I've got an affinity as well for old Bosches. So Alex has done a few videos on those, and I've got a I've got the NOS. Let's see, it was the Bosch Premium XXL Electro, and so they still have some of those on eBay. So they're new old stock on eBay, and for $200 you get like a fantastic canister. So anyways, I don't really use that too much. It's unboxed, but I haven't really. It's kind of a corner queen. And then I do use this one frequently. I also have what was a display model that some vac shop just had sitting around in a closet, and they decided to get rid of it. A display model Bosch Formula Electro, which in red. So I have one of those that I have kind of rejuvenated. It was a little scratched up on the hood, but I polished it, and it looks great and looks brand new. So I've been collecting parts for those as well, because you see a lot of those pop up without hoses or wands, because those were both wont to break on those models. So I've just been holding out on parts. Downstairs in the basement of the shop, I also bought for $200 2 of the Bosch Premiums, the like very high end. I forget what the moniker for it was, but it's the silver units with the like automatic cord rewind. Like when you unplug it, it activates the cord rewind. It had the power nozzle with the headlight. It had handle controls, so it was, for all intents and purposes, the competitor for whatever the top of the line spec Miele was at the time. So I've got a couple of those, but they need work and they need some parts. So I'm just putting it all together. Yeah, that Bosch is a big girl. It's true. Those are big canisters. 4 casters, man. That's how you know it's big. It's like SIBO D4 status. So, anyways, but yeah, so I just pulled up a couple pictures of the quartz here. I mean, they're just they're work of art. I there's a part of me that feels like Miele's never going to make a vacuum like this again. Does anybody else feel that way? There's a part of me, like, looking at their current production, what they've designed recently, and all of that. I just don't feel like there's going to be something like this again. Just DM'd you on Instagram, picking my S6. Performance reviews. You have a red velvet, yeah? I think you do. Red velvet would be sweet. I'm not gonna lie. That I would be down with that. Is it a little dark in here? Let me turn on my light. That's better. I feel like that's a little better. I'm getting a little confused too because the video is flipped, so I look one way and it's actually looking the other. So bear with me if I look like I'm staring off into space. But yeah, Miele has been nothing but disappointments recently. So I just oh, Jasper. My dad has a Jasper. I like that green color. Those are cool. Yeah, so in any case, I just, after Miele made the Blizzard and now they've made the Triflex, and now they're coming out with whatever the hell that goofy ball thing is, the CX1 something or other compact. I don't love the direction that they're heading in, so... But who knows? They may surprise me. Maybe their next round of bagged vacuums will be absolutely incredible, but we'll find out. All right, so how did I get started in... launch them in camouflage colors for whatever reason? Yeah, they did. They did launch them in camouflage colors. It was a little weird. Let's see. So how did I get started in the vacuum industry? So let's go over here. So I will show you. Actually, we'll start here. So when I was in high school, I think I was 16. It was around 1996. So I was actually younger than that. I was like 14 or 15. So my neighbors, who I was best friends with their son, they owned 2 vacuum stores, one in Paso Robles, California, and one in Atascadero, California. And so anyways, I was talking to them. I wanted a job, and I'd been working some like corny side hustle kind of things, like cleaning out rental cars, and like that was nasty, and that was for my grandfather. But I'd been doing a lot of that, and so they offered me a job to help out at the shop. So I started at the Paso Robles store. The Paso Robles store was owned by Pat, who is the husband. The Atascadero store was run by the wife, who is Kim. This isn't actually the first store that I worked in. This was the second. We moved locations. So the first one was in like a strip mall, and then the second one was on a sweet piece of property. The property was definitely worth more than the building. And he sold it for a pretty decent profit as well. This has since been torn down, and it's now like doctor's offices or something like that. And so this was the second location. I managed this shop from 2002. Wait, no, 2004 until we closed it in 2005. So I worked at the store from 1997. I think it was 1997 or 1998. So I was more like 16. So, anyways, but I worked there through high school. When I went to college, I would come back every Christmas, every summer, every holiday, and I would work there. And then when I graduated from college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I ended up managing this bad boy out of college. And that was a lot of fun. Very cool. It was a teeny, tiny little store. Like, check out these photos. Like, I mean, we're talking like well under 1,000 square feet. So you had vacuums in the front. This is the front door. Counter is off here to the left. There was maybe 3 feet between the counter and the wall, and there were bags on the wall too, so there was not much room. Parking on the back there. That's my old Mazda. They must have taken these pictures when I was working there. Got a little office, and there was a sink in there as well. We really did well with the tight space, but that's from the back looking at the front door. So there was back access with like a blowout station and a workbench, so it was nice. You could work outside. There were 2 workbenches, this one here facing towards the front and then one facing towards the wall. Yeah, it was small. It was great. It was a lot of fun. But then when this store closed, it's a long story. So anyways, the husband, Pat, who managed this shop, and I took over managing it for him because he started a boat business. He started carrying Malibu ski boats. So he had like a full dealership and all that jazz. So when that happened, it got really difficult for them to have the 2 stores plus the boat shop. So I took this one off their hands for a while, but after a while they just decided to close it. So I went on to manage this second location. This was the flagship. This is a Tascadero Sewing and Vacuum. It is in the old part of downtown. I actually took this picture, so there's some old stuff up there. Yeah, this is circa like probably 2006 or 7. So in any case, yeah, this is a much bigger store. Huge showroom, but we had both sewing, like a lot of sewing with like koala cabinets and all that, and big embroidery machines, and then also vacuums. So, and a large repair area in the back. So anyways, it's still there, still run by the same family. Their daughter's husband kind of took over managing it for them on the day-to-day. So in any case, they're doing good. Yeah, so that's how I got started in the industry. I left here in 2000 and I left summer of 2008 because I'd met my wife. We weren't married at the time. And I decided I went to Europe for a semester of teaching. I taught AP politics, AP political comparable AP comparative politics. Sorry, I should be able to actually say it. And then I also taught philosophy with a professor from University of Prague. I was in Prague working for an international school, so I had kids from like US, Canada, Philippines, Korea, Serbia, like all over the place. So everything was taught in English. So I did that for a semester, then came back, and after my wife and I got married, I continued on a different career pathway. I kind of fell into corporate training and then marketing. It's been a weird path. It wasn't really what I set out to do with a political science degree. But fast forward to 2016, and I had been coming into this store for a while to buy bags for our Mila Callisto. We had a Callisto at the time, an S5. And I got to talking with the owner, and you know, basically, he told me he was thinking about retiring. He gave me his card. I kept coming in. He'd mention it, but like nothing ever really happened. So I didn't think anything was going to happen. Um, and I had just started working for UVA. I was making an hour and a half commute every day. And right about that time, he called me up and said, "Do you want to buy the shop?" And I was like, "Crap, I can't do it now. I'm working for UVA. I'm making this drive. Like, there's just no way I can handle that." But then I thought, my dad, who had worked in HVAC for like 40 years, so he'd worked in the trades for 40 years, he was looking to slow things down a little bit and do something that was less demanding on his body. So I actually ended up buying the business, getting him to move out here. He runs it during the week. I'm here evenings and weekends. I no longer work at UVA. I moved to a local, smaller health system. And yeah, it's worked out great. So that's how I ended up here. Like, it comes full circle. I guess once it's in your blood, you can't get it out. I don't know. It's always been a hidden dream of mine in the back of my head, like, because this is such a sleeper business. If you can run it right, and I don't know if I'm running it right. It's hard to tell during COVID. Nothing's normal, and nothing has been normal for fully half of the time that I've owned this business. Um, so it's really hard to tell and get a gauge, but this is such a sleeper business. If there's people need a vacuum. That's what it comes down to, and people will get tired of cheap machines, and so they'll buy them from you. Now I don't do sewing like we did in the old stores. There's a quilt shop 2 doors down from us, and they take care of that. They're like a Bernina and Pfaff and Janome dealer. Um, so they got all the big boys. But yeah, I just, yes, sewing is somewhat lucrative. I don't think it's as lucrative as it used to be. The margins are shrinking pretty heavily, especially especially on some of the higher end machines. But margins are shrinking everywhere. Um, I just, it's not. I've got my hands full with vacuums. I'm the only vacuum shop for a 60-mile radius around me, so I'm plenty busy. Hey, thanks, Alex. Appreciate that. Um, yeah, it truly is. If you want to talk business for a second, try running a business. And I know many of you might be doing this, and you can probably attest to this. Running a business during COVID is like the blind leading the blind. Trying to navigate between, you know, whether or not to take, the government bailout money, or whether or not to close or when to reopen. Like, all of that is just, it's so bizarre, and I can't get a grasp on why things slow down when anymore, because it's all dependent on where we're at locally with COVID. So it's just been, and that's not to get into like anybody's opinions on anything. It's just a reality of doing business in this time, right? So, um, yeah. So that's I don't know. That's running a business during this time. It is stressful. I do not sleep hardly ever, and and it drives me crazy. But anyways, I'm gonna resize this window here real quick, so that I'm looking more at you guys as opposed to looking off to the other side. There, that's better. Now it looks like I'm looking towards the camera. So anyway, that's where we're at in terms of how I ended up here, what I'm doing now. I've mentioned this before. I still have a 9 to 5. The shop is not able to support me because of the loans that I took out to purchase the business. Any money that I would make for myself personally goes to pay off that debt. I pay my dad's salary, and he's my sole employee. So, we're running a tight ship. I still work my 9 to 5, so I am doing that, working at the hospital, and that will continue for the foreseeable future. I don't know when that will end, or how, or if. We'll just see. But let's see. So that was our little history lesson on how Matt ended up in this crazy business of vacuums. All right. Yeah, performance reviews, the women are not worth the hassle of dealing with. Yeah, um, quilters in particular are just, they're their own breed, man. They're hard to deal with. And as a kid who I taught myself how to sew. I taught myself how to use embroidery machines because these women would come in and grill you like it was freaking, like Attica. Um, and it's brutal. So I taught myself like literally all of it because I came in as the vacuum tech and I had no idea. And when I was running the shop on my own, it was just like, I don't know. So yeah, because they're hardcore. Like when they have got questions, they want answers. So, oh man, yeah, I those were there were a lot of sticky situations, but quilters, wait, it's rough. Um, let's see, what was the second question here? Yeah, so outside your wheelhouse, but it's really not. Houseplants asked, what's the best way to deep clean carpets? Which at-home methods like water extraction, Sebo Duo, Dyson Zorb, or Capture, I'll add host to that, or Kirby shampooing, do you recommend and which should be avoided? Any professional services besides hot water extraction that you think are worth seeking out? That's a great question. I have, that's putting it nicely about quilters, so true. So here's the this is gonna get a little long, and I'm sorry. I have opinions, so this isn't really actually out of my wheelhouse. I think about this a lot, and nobody believes me on this, but they should because you know, I've I've spoken with people. So let's go to carpet. What is carpet? How's it made? How's it dyed? So most carpet is synthetic, and unless you get wool carpet, and then and I think there's like bamboo carpet now and whatnot, but most of it is synthetic. And then in addition to that, when they dye carpet, it is typically an acid set dye. And that dye includes most of the properties for the carpet to resist wear, as well as resist soiling and stains. Some companies add additional treatments on top, like Stain Master or Stain Guard. Stain Guard, that's what it is. Um, but predominantly, you can get new carpet, and it will be somewhat stain resistant, and it's because of the dyeing process, and that is an acid set dye. Now, the problem with soaps is that they are basic, for the most part. Um, so you have to be really careful about what you introduce to your carpet because the more basic chemicals you add to that, the more it messes up the acidic properties of the dye that was used when they manufactured the carpet. That's why over time, when you use, a more basic on the pH scale shampoo solution, you're going to start to see more wear. You're going to start to see some weird discoloration, maybe, and you're going to see a big reduction in how it soils and tries to repel soiling, right? So you get into this cycle because of that, where you are essentially you have to shampoo because you shampooed, right? So it starts to look icky and matted, and that brings me to the second point, which is extraction. So the problem with most home extractors is the amount of water that they can extract from the carpet. You look at the freshwater tank versus the dirty water tank, and the dirty water tank's a lot smaller, and that's because you can only pick up, you know, if you're doing really, really good, you might be able to pick up 70% of what you lay down. That's probably optimistic, but at least for like most home jobbers like Hoovers or Bissell's or, whoever else is out there. So my so what that does is when you're using a basic shampoo solution and you're only able to extract 70% of the solution that you're laying down, what you are doing is you are every time you shampoo, you are adding a base residue, a chemical soap to your carpet that stays in there as part of the damp water that you were not able to extract. Number one, that's just gross. And then number two, it's not good for kids, pets, that kind of thing, because you have that laying around in your carpet. And then finally, that also adds to the wear of the carpet because you've got a situation where you continually add this ooey gooey stuff, because what happens to soap when it dries? It gets sticky, it leaves a residue. So, what that does is it attracts, it doesn't just like ruin the repellent nature of the carpet, but it also attracts dirt because it's tacky. Um, so that's kind of where I'm at with wet extraction. So I personally, I currently do not have a home with carpet. There's only one carpeted staircase in my house to the basement, and that's Berber. So I would never shampoo that. Maybe if I was desperate and somebody tracked in like red clay or something. There are situations where there's just no getting around it. Somebody tracks in red clay, what are you going to do? You're going to have to shampoo it. But as a general rule, you should avoid shampooing with a home unit as much as possible. So I'm pretty adamantly against any kind of home wet extraction system. If you are going to do home wet extraction, my suggestion would be to purchase a shampoo for it that is advertised as pH balanced. So coming in close to, what is it, 7 on the pH scale, which is neutral, or as close to that as possible, so it doesn't mess with the pH of your carpeting. The second thing is I would probably rent a machine because those Hoovers and Bissell's are $200 machines that are trying to imitate what a $2,000 or $3,000 machine is designed to do, and those are the more like semi-professional big things, like what you see with the Bissell big green machines, like the BG10, those big ones, or Rug Doctors, the big Rug Doctors, not like their little home jobbers, but that. If you have to do wet extraction, check the shampoo, use a bigger machine because they are going to be better at extraction than your typical Walmart special. So, let's see what's going on here. Any thoughts about extraction? I own a $1,000 C4 carpet extractor. I couldn't agree. Yeah, see, yeah. If you're going to do it right because you want to get as much of that water out of there as possible. So that brings us to alternatives. So for my purposes in my home, I have all area rugs, and a lot of them are antiques. So my personal preference is that every so often I have a rug specialist. These are like actual Iranian rugs, like hand woven Persian rugs that have been handed down through the family. So they're delicate, they're worth money. So what I do is I would have a rug expert come in, pick up the rugs, take them, steam clean them with actual steam, and then return them. That's personally what I would do. Steam is a really good option if you're just looking to freshen up the carpet, get rid of odor. If you're looking to try to get some dirt out, steam cleaner is great. Something like the Vaporesso, They make one that has like a microfiber pad with a carpet skid plate on it, and I use that on a frequent basis on some of my less expensive rugs that I don't want to pay to have cleaned. But they do a great job of freshening things up. The microfiber kind of scrubs it back and forth, and that will help with transfer of the dirt that is the soiling that is up higher. And there's obviously no pad, so we don't have to worry about deep cleaning to a pad in that case. So steam is a great option if you have access to it. I would absolutely prefer buying a steam machine for $200 to $300 as opposed to buying a shampooer for $200 to $300. It is better for carpets, area rugs, and all other surfaces of the home than a wet extractor would be. So steam is one option. Another option is going to be dry chemicals. So things like SIBO Duo, Dyson Zorb, Capture, Host. Those are the big four. And my experience with those is actually very positive. So the way that it works, at least I'm most familiar with SIBO because that's always been what I've carried. I've carried that since the early 2000s when I was working at the other shop. So Houseplants loves a steamer. That is right. It's good stuff. Let's see. OS4436, what do you think of the Bissell Big Green Carpet Washer versus Rug Doctor? Flip a coin. Honestly, like if you the Bissell BG10, the really big commercial quality, it comes from Bissell's commercial line, which is actually a separate company entirely than the Bissell that you see in Walmart. Those are good machines. Those are really good machines. So there's a lot of options out there for more professional wet extractors. But again, would I buy one or would I just rent one? The frequency that I would want to use one in is very low. Even if I had carpet, I've lived in houses that have full carpet, and I still would only use, before I had a steamer, I would only use the dry cleaners. So basically what it is, it's almost like a foam. It's a synthetic material, like a powder, and what it is, what it has in it, it's kind of damp to the touch, but it has a like a alcohol-based reagent typically, that what it does is when you work it through the carpet, that those little pieces of plastic foam that look like powder, the alcohol and the reagent evaporate and then draw the dirt into it. So it will be white when you lay it down, and when you vacuum it up, it will be dark, like a dark gray typically. So people say, well, that can't work because you got to wash it. You got to wash it real good. It's like wiping things off with a microfiber. Microfiber cleans way better than using, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. But anyways, it's just a different method. And the best thing about it is, as far as I know, pretty much all of those are relatively pH neutral. Even with the alcohol in them, they've formulated them not to mess with the chemicals in the carpet. Oh yeah, Lindhouse makes some dry stuff too. That's right. I forgot about that. So what you do is you sprinkle it down, you work it through with a machine or with a rake, and then you let it sit for about half an hour. Let that evaporate. Once it's evaporated, you vacuum it up with your vacuum, and the room is ready for immediate use. So you don't have any dampness, you don't have any potential for mold or fungal growth in either your carpet batting or in the pad, which can be a problem if you live in a more humid environment and you do a wet extraction method on a frequent basis. You can and probably will get some amount of mold and fungal growth. particularly because your shoes track in a lot of mold and fungal spores when you come into the house. So if you're not like religious about taking your shoes off, or if you've got dogs who come in from outside and they come in with their dirty paws, you know, those elements are already there. So you want something that's going to help sanitize and remove as opposed to create a breeding environment for those factors. And that's what dry cleaning really does. In my opinion, dry cleaning is best for maintaining carpet. And for 90% of the circumstances out there, it works better, in my opinion, than wet extraction. There are situations that will require wet extraction. You know, again, if you get like a red clay in your carpet, or, you know, just something that you just can't get up by any other means, you're going to have to wet extract. But that's what wet extraction is. It's a blunt instrument tool for one job. It's to get some sort of ick out of your carpet, but you don't want to use it all the time because it is not good for the carpet. So it's kind of like taking medication for pain. You know what I mean? Like, there are strong medicines out there. You don't want to take them all the time. They're meant for certain circumstances, right? Or otherwise it'll be bad for your body. It's the same thing with wet cleaning. It's a blunt force tool. So I would say for most circumstances, a wet extractor is not needed. And then if you do need a wet extractor, either A, rent a large unit, or B, just pay somebody to come in with a truck-mounted unit. Those things extract so much better than even the commercial units. The truck-mounted units will leave your carpet almost just barely damp to the touch, like not sopping wet. And that's what you want. So my preference would be to pay somebody to do that on occasion. Again, that occasion may present itself every 3, 4, 5 years. And then the rest of the time, I would be working through with a dry cleaner if that's what was necessary. If I had a lot of high traffic areas or kids or, you know, whatever, a lot of carpet. So that is carpet cleaning in a nutshell. Not really so much of a nutshell. There was a question about whether or not I like Kirby's method with the dry foam. In my opinion, the dry foam works okay. You have to own a Kirby to use it. So if you have a Kirby, it's better than wet extraction. You are still laying down some amount of water, but again, because of it's coming out in that high foam, it's not quite as penetrant. And the nice thing about that is when that shampoo and that foam dries and crystallizes, it almost works like the dry chemicals, in the sense like it draws the dirt into that chemical and then you vacuum it up. So it's kind of a halfway point between water extraction with a cheap machine and then using like a dry chemical method. So if you have a Kirby, you could probably use it, probably be fine. A lot of people have good results with them. If you don't have a Kirby, do I think that it's worth buying a Kirby for? No. You have lots of other options. I would rather buy, if I needed to shampoo that much, I would rather buy a Cibo Duo and like a wholesale carton of the Cibo Duo powder and call it good. Houseplants, worst of both worlds then. True story. So so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk everybody's ear off about carpet cleaning, but it's like the information is out there and it wants to explode sometimes, and people do not believe me when I tell them like, you should not be shampooing this much. They're like, dude, I have dogs, like I have to shampoo, you don't understand. I'm like, I do. And what you're doing is ruining your carpet, you know, and they'll get new carpet and they'll say like, man, I need to upgrade my shampooer because I just got new carpet. Like, no. I'll say dry cleaning and they're like, that can't work. It works really well. So it's a frustrating topic for me. So Anyways, um, so those were our two kind of planned topics. A little bit of history on how I ended up here, and then also shampooing. So I'm gonna kind of flip through the comments here real quick and see kind of what's up. Let's see here. Going back. Yeah, performance reviews. Why do vac shops not modernize their online presence more? Um, I'll talk about this. This is another good topic surrounding the vacuum world. And performance reviews knows this better than anybody else. There are two elements in the vacuum world, um, and I'm part of one, and then there's another. And one of them is the old guard. Okay, so these are the old guys who are like burned out on life, burned out on the industry. They don't want things to change. If things change, it's always bad, always bad. Internet sales, bad. Amazon, bad. Um, I'm not saying Amazon's good, but you know what I mean. Internet marketing, websites, bad. Like, they are just in it to make it to the end and retire and hopefully have some sort of shell of a business to sell to somebody if anybody wants to buy it. So there's the new guard, though, and that's kind of what I consider myself being a part of. There's folks like Evan Joseph, Corey Haskins, Alex. There's a lot of younger folks who have ended up in the industry one way or another, whether it's by family or just by circumstance like me. But what we understand is that you have to change in order to survive. That's why you see all these vacuum companies going out of business. Not companies, but like stores. Like I am the only store left in the Lynchburg metropolitan area. Since I bought this business, two have left, and before that, two others had left. So that's four total. I'm the last standing, bastion, and you've got to adapt to survive. Like that's really what it comes down to, and a lot of those guys aren't willing to do it. But yeah, we have to improve our online presence, social media, doing stuff like this. I had a talk with old timer, not old, I shouldn't call her an old timer, but had a talk with a friend, and she said, we're just not good in front of a camera. Like, the only way you get good is by doing it. You know what I mean? Like, the only reason I'm decent in front of a camera is because I did corporate training for 10 years. So I'm used to having an audience. I've gotten used to just running my mouth. As you can tell from this live stream, I can just talk and talk and talk, even though I'm an introvert. I'm a learned extrovert. I can sit here and talk about vacuum crap all day. So you got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to get better at it. If you don't know about social media channels, learn it. If you don't know about graphic design, learn it. If you don't know about branding and how branding can work for you, you have to learn it. And there are ways to do that that are free. So, yeah, we got to get with the program. Sorry, that's a pet peeve of mine. So, anyways, do I have any old vacuum literature, brochures, etc.? I didn't really have any when I moved into this shop. Rick, that was your question. I didn't really have any. I have some S7 manuals, but I'm hanging on to those because, not S7, sorry, S8 manuals, like factory repair manuals. But I'm hanging on to those because I have a feeling that the less I work on them now that they're out of production, the more I will probably need those in the future. So I'm hanging on to those for a rainy day. Let's see. Rolling down here. What was your thoughts on the Hoover Steam Vac when they first came out? Hoover Steam Vac. Was that the predecessor of the For some reason, I'm drawing a blank on what the Hoover Steam Vac was. Was that like the predecessor of the like Floormate, or was that actually a carpet tool? Let me know. For some reason, I'm drawing a blank on that. I'll say Hoover. Uh, their shampooers have always been kind of meh. A home shampooer, or you know, if that has any kind of extraction element, if it's purely steam, it was probably fine. It's really hard to mess up some level of like a steamer. Um, Even Shark, their steamers are horrible pieces of junk, but they are, they do an okay job while they're still working. Um, but those cheap shampooers really act like cheap shampooers, and they do from day one. So if they had a steam vac, it was probably okay. It probably wasn't super long lived. Performance reviews. You should just cut this clip out and post it as its own video, and this carpet cleaning information so useful. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's after talking with like some old timers in the vac industry, some old carpet cleaners, like some guys. There was one VDTA. For those of you who don't know, that's the Vacuum Dealer Trade Association, and they have like a conference most every year. And there were for some reason, they had some guys there from the carpet industry. And so they talked about this at length, and it was so helpful to talk about that. So maybe I'll do a video on that. That's a really good idea, Alex. Maybe I'll do that. Let's see. I love doing vacuums. I've been doing vacuums for 10 years. Yeah, again, it's kind of addicting. It's a random skill to have, but it's but it's fun. It scratches that itch for me. Working on vacuums scratches that itch of wanting to tinker on stuff. I'm a car guy who does not have a garage anymore and does not have a car that needs tinkered on anymore, and both of those I want to remedy in some point in the future. But this is how I scratch that itch. So let's see. Rick says it was Hoover's first upright carpet cleaner that came out in 1994. Okay, yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I mean, they're better than what they currently make now, but I mean, it's still a cheap extractor. So I don't think the performance was ever sufficient for what's needed to actually care for carpet. But so that's part of what owning a vac shop is too, is like you can't just know the vacuums, you have to know like the elements and the environments in which they're used and how that affects things, right? Because because you want your customers to be satisfied with whatever they purchase. You are a specialty store. They are coming to you for expertise. If you don't know about flooring, if you don't know about carpet, if you don't know about different kinds of polished hard flooring that can be damaged, you'd have no business being in the vacuum industry. It is absolutely necessary because, again, it's like rolling into it, and you probably have a story about having done this, or a family member, but it's like rolling into a really high-end car lot, right? You go to a Mercedes dealership and you're like, hey, I want to check out the new S-Class. They're like, oh, which one's that? You want an SUV? No, I want the like big sedan. Oh, so like this one? No, that's the E-Series. I want an S-Class. It's like that. They don't know anything about the cars, like, but you're coming to a high-end spot, and that's what a vacuum shop should be. We sell high-end vacuums. We're not selling junk. So anyways, off my soapbox. Let's see. PC Spider, listen to Discord. Have you ever worked on or used a Fairfax? I have not. I've never actually physically in the flesh seen a Fairfax. And I think a lot of that is owing to the fact that I started out my vacuum career on the West Coast. So like that's just not a thing anybody has heard of out there. I think that it's a very regional kind of thing. Um, I'm surprised that I haven't seen one here, but again, I've only owned this shop for 4 years now, so surprised and not surprised. There can't be that many out there. Um, and for canisters, our area is pretty much saturated with either Electroluxes or Milas. I don't think we've ever had a Fairfax rep around. Uh, Performance reviews, hashtag Oryx store. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Talking about the high end experience and going in and they don't know anything. Yeah, hashtag Oryx store. Chris E, what replacement power heads do you offer your customers for their central vacuums? My favorite, and this is highly, this is you can throw a rock and you'll find a vacuum tech that tells you a different thing. Like we all have our preferences, and most of them are absolutely fine. They'll all do the job. My favorite is the Stealth Kit from Modern Day, which is essentially a Lindhouse nozzle that's been rebadged. They had some issues with them like early on. I'm talking like late 90s, early 2000s. They've since been worked out and they're pretty much bulletproof. It's a great kit. The accessories are good. I love them. So that is what I typically sell for something that is more budget oriented. I used to sell Hayden's back when they were the rebadged Panasonic units. Those were, again, decent, semi-reliable, good for the price. And they had really nice hoses on them too, those Hayden kits. Now, you know, if people are getting a replacement, I go with either, go with one of the big three. Either go with the MD Stealth Kit, which is a Lindhouse. You go with I think it's Cyclovac. Is it Cyclovac that does the SIBO power nozzles that are rebadged? Those are good too. And then of course you can go with the Vesselwerk. Basically any of their heads are pretty reliable too. I mean, they're all proven designs that really haven't changed over the years. There's some really funky, cheap ones out there, and I'd stay the heck away from those because a lot of them are based off of like Eurekas and different weird stuff from over the years, but they have enough proprietary parts to be problematic for repair. Let's see. Michael, what's the SIBO Duo? So the SIBO Duo, let me see. Hold tight there. I am going to go back to my share here. And we'll do a little research here so I can show you. All right. So, product directory carpet cleaning duo brush. So this here, that's not good. This here is the SIBO Duo brush machine. Essentially, let's see if they have a better picture of it. Yeah, so here it is. So essentially all it is two really large counter-rotating brush rolls that are not like twin strip brush rolls. They are literally, the whole roll is made up of a brush. It's just brush all the way around. And all it does is it kneads that dry chemical into your carpet. Different brands have different methods. Lindhouse, they have attachments for your vacuum so you can do it. Host has their own like rental machine program that has something that's essentially like a commercial version of it's not actually a SIBO Duo, but same concept. But yeah, here's an example, and this is not exaggerated, of the before chemical. It's kind of a beigey color, and then after gray, like every time. Works really well. So that's what a SIBO Duo is. Sorry for not clarifying that. So let's switch back. Let's see. Would you say that stealths clean better? I have an old Linhouse HF6, but not a fan of the 90s nozzle. I think they clean great. I've used many a stealth kit and they've all worked really well. So let's see here. Chris, can't get a stealth kit shipped to Canada from MD. Yeah, that's a bummer. Yeah, if you're in Canada, I don't know what to tell you. If you're in Canada, I'd straight up just do I do vessel work or SIBO. That kind of makes up your mind for you. I do one of those. Let's see. HP manufactured SIBO. Yeah, you're right. HP does do the SIBO nozzles, and the dual brush nozzle available for the Stealth makes all the difference. Yeah, yeah. The old single brush model, that definitely there was a difference. I forgot about that. So thanks for pointing that out, because the dual brush makes a huge difference. Am I crazy that I enjoy listening to talking about vacuums? I don't know, maybe. Sometimes I wonder why anybody listens to me talk. But I'm glad that you enjoy it. I think it's interesting. Here's what's interesting about the vacuum industry. We are just like a used car dealership. We are historically linked with liars and scoundrels all the way along the line, and that continues to this day, either through door-to-door salesmen or really sketchy vacuum dealer store owners, or even worse, the manufacturers are the worst. There is always so much veiled mystery and misinformation around vacuums because there's no other appliance like niche that is as filled with misinformation by the people who actually make the products than vacuums. Whether you're talking about Shark, Dyson, Hoover, I don't care. It's 90% of what they say is absolute garbage. And yeah, so talking with other people who understand the products, who understand the goals of the products and the environments in which those are supposed to be used, to me is super interesting because it kind of lifts that veil of all of the BS that we've been fed over years and years and years, right? That is part of the reason why I think this is so interesting, because you cannot take anybody's word in the vacuum industry for how something actually functions. You have to find out for yourself or through a actual trusted source, like a really good retailer. So it's just a weird industry. It's always been that way. Well, let's see. It's been 20 years since Dyson came to the US. What was your thoughts on them when they came out? My thoughts on Dyson when they came out, they're about what they were now. I didn't like bagless, but I had already been through the hell that was working on Phantoms. So to me, you had like Phantoms, you had like Eureka light speeds, like those weird twin chamber Hoovers, just really, really bad, like caveman bagless machines. And so Dyson comes along, and they were actually a pretty functional machine for what they were. Now, did I love bagless? No, I didn't. But if you had to have a bagless, even from the get, even with the DC07, which I'm pretty sure was their first model that was, mass marketed in the US, even from the DC07, I knew that those were, if you had to have a bagless, that was one to get, because you could see when you used it that the root cyclones actually held some promise and took care of a lot of the issues that those really early generation bypass clean air machines had. So that being said, there were a few problems I had with them from the get. One was those freaking clutches with the two rubber belts, man. Like, those started slipping within a year, 2 years of heavy use, like those were just a bad design. And on top of that, when they first came out, you couldn't get parts for them. Like there was no parts distribution. You had to go directly to Dyson as a consumer. Um, and that was a nightmare. So I really hated them because of that, because I could not get parts for these vacuums, and they were starting to really need some parts, particularly that clutch. And of course, they had the same issues that all bagless machines do. If you abused or didn't take care of them, they would burn up the motor, and those were not available either. Panasonic design, but pretty bespoke per model. So that has gotten better. You can now get some Dyson parts. They have a wholesaler here now. They don't stock a lot, and they don't bring a lot over from Malaysia, but you are able to get some stuff. There are some replacement parts, like third-party parts now. That helps. One thing that back in the day, you could get parts if you became a Dyson dealer, or warranty station, as they called it. That program, I wish that I was grandfathered into, because they will not do it anymore. They are not interested in any private warranty stations. They are not interested in any non-national dealers. So like I've literally, every time I see a Dyson rep, it's some sort of industry function, I hassle them about this, that they won't let us do that anymore. And there's just like, they're simply not interested. And honestly, there's been a shift with Dyson. This goes back, we talked about this in the last stream. There's been a shift with Dyson from focusing on actual appliances, which traditionally come with repair and parts and serviceability and yada yada yada, to consumer electronics. And we've seen that as they've moved away from their mains powered machines to cordless. Cordless by its nature is more of a white label product, like a consumer electronic that's disposable, and that's where their interest has shifted. So I get it. Their business model no longer fits that. But I wish I'd been, I wish this store had been grandfathered in. That would have been sweet. Do you need to change bags or clean filters after cleaning up the dry powder? Yeah, you'll definitely need to change the bags, houseplants. So if you use a dry powder cleaner on your carpet, then you vacuum all of it up. So let's say they usually come in like 1 pound they usually come in 1 pound packages, or you can buy like a box of 5 pounds. So when you take all that up, it's not going to weigh quite as much because the liquid has evaporated, but it's still going to weigh a lot. So you want to have a few empty bags available and at your disposal, and just plan on continually checking it throughout the process. As you do one, say you do a bedroom, check the bag. Do the hallway, check the bag, and then change as needed. So we'll go through a few bags. A lot of times I rent Cibo Duo machines, and a lot of times I'll pair that with like an X4 or an X7, and I include in that rental price, it's they don't pay it as a line item, but it's included in my costs, that I give them about 3 bags plus the bag that's in the machine. So and that's just, and that varies depending on how much chemical they're buying or how many square feet they're planning on doing. But yeah, you'll go through bags for sure. What do you think is about the mid-size Riccar Pristine canisters from a few years back? Have one in the collection, like it, but never compared it to any models from Miele or Cibo. Yeah, so Dirt Devil MVP vac. That's a good question. The old Riccar Pristine vacuums were an okay attempt to kind of match what Miele was doing. That's the market that Riccar wanted a bite out of. The issue was that those were all outsourced from South Korea. So the design, the parts, it was all, I think it was built, I want to say with Daewoo. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe that was the 1500s that were with Daewoo. Correct me if I'm wrong. But um, in any case, they weren't. Korean Ricar's the best Ricar. That's great. Well done. So my main problem with those, they had a lot of teething issues. Once they got them ironed out, they were pretty good, pretty reliable. They had some teething issues, particularly with the electronics. The later units are definitely much, 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 much better. Um, the issue now is parts availability because they were a partnership. They're no longer making the parts. There was some sort of story floating around, and I don't know whether it's urban legend or not, but there was some sort of story floating around that the factory that made the hoses burned down after production ended, and now they can't get hoses. I don't know. But in any case, hoses are no longer available. Wands are no longer available. Power nozzle parts, pretty readily available. They're still making that nozzle, so have at it. But basically, any of the rest of the machine, if you're not after like just bags or filters, it's NA. So that is a problem for me, just from a high-end machine perspective. Miele has discontinued some parts, but that's typically for pretty old machines. Like in the grand scheme of things, like if you bring in a 15-year-old Miele, chances are their parts are going to be available for it, or even updated parts that have been made better than when they were new, because they recognize that there was some sort of flaw in the design. So when you buy a high-end vacuum, parts availability should not be a question mark, and that's my problem with the Pristine from a owner's point of view. Not Matt the vac dealer, but Matt the consumer point of view. That would be problematic for me, and we have run into that because this store did sell a decent amount of Pristines. So we just really work with people to get them into something else. Just give them like incredible trade-ins and that kind of stuff. Just offer that they can't refuse. So we work with people, but I wish I didn't have to do that. It shouldn't be a step that we have to take. I get it that stuff happens, but how hard would it be to contract with a hose maker to make those hoses again? I mean, yeah. Let's see. So Chris says, let's see. Chris says, Dyson, what a joke. Performance reviews. So true. Lots of boomer vac shops feel they have to lie to their customers for some reason. Yeah. Like, boomers are... Now, if you're watching this and you're a boomer, I love you. My parents are boomers. As a general rule, if they're still in business, if they're still working, they're pretty burned out on whatever they're doing. So... they tend to not really care anymore. That's problematic. Yeah, lots of boomer energy. Let's see. Yeah, the 1500, 1700, and 1800 were Daewoo. That's what I thought. Yep. Perfect. The Pristine was a co-op outsourced to China. Oh, I forgot that those moved to China. That's right. Interesting. So kind of like what they're doing, at least from my knowledge, with the R50 series now, essentially. Upgraded parts from a flawed Miele design. Hint, 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 Blue Moon. Yeah. Yeah, true story. True story, PC Spider. Yeah. You will. Now, one thing that I will give credit to Cibo, Miele, and Ricar on. I can't speak to any other brands because those are basically the ones that I've always worked with on some level. They are really good about revising parts. Um, if they come out with something, Sibo's really good about it because they just never change anything. Like they change their vacuums every 15 years, so like everything just works all the time because like we've made this brush roll for 25 years. Like there's nothing to go wrong. It's already proven. That's how they get their reliability. But particularly Ricard and Miele, I will both give them credit for uh, revising things when they don't work. Now, are there situations where they probably should have been caught in the design process or in the testing process during beta? Yeah, there have been some pretty big oversights, but I will give them this: they always fix it. Um, so that is a really good thing. Um, if they find out something is faulty, they will revise the part. They won't just keep selling you the broken part, which is nice. I'm pretty sure Josh May made those hoses not available. Performance reviews, more vacuum urban legends, huh? Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, it's possible. I mean, part of it could have been a manufacturer relationship issue, but then a lot of it is like, do we really care enough to actually try to get a second manufacturer to make these things? You know, the hose element, if you're going to a hose manufacturer, a company that makes hoses for other companies, those things are dead simple to implement. Like, you're not talking about a lot of molds and stuff. You're talking about a handle, you're talking about a plug into the machine, and the rest of that hose is just standard issue crush proof. It's again, it would not have been a big investment. They could have found somebody to make those, and it's really disappointing that they didn't. Dirt Devil MVP vac, very true. I always had owned two since it was way cheaper to find a second one, $50. This is my first busted cord winder when I found it. Yeah. Let's see, Matt, what happened to the Miele Blue Moon? Yeah, so the Blue Moon had a couple issues, and it sounds like Dirt Devil MVP had issue number one. So I'm trying to think through how I'm going to tell it. So essentially, on some of those models, it wasn't just the Blue Moon, but one thing that did happen is you could basically split the cord reel in half. So the cord reel is circular. Miele Blue Moon, mistakes were made. It's true. So you had like performance reviews. You have a video on it, dude. Just post the video. I'm not gonna go through it. Post the video, man. Go check it out, Chris E. I'm not gonna repeat what Alex has already done. Much better, I'm sure. Have you ever worked on Hoover's service rep nightmare, the wind tunnel V2? Oh yeah, the wind tunnel V2 dual V Savvy. Yeah, bro. Those are the one with the gearboxes and the four brushes. Holy freaking Toledo. That was a disaster. That was not quite as bad as the Z's. It was close. It's pretty doggone close. Yeah. So what Rick's talking about, everybody, is back in the day, Hoover had the wind tunnel. The wind tunnel was like revolutionary for Hoover, and that was a model that really kept them afloat for a while. They were really hurting, and the wind tunnel gave them enough wind in their sails. And then what they did is, as a encore, they decided to make the absolute worst piece of junk in the history of man. Just like super over designed, but like on a really tight budget, and they were horrible. So essentially, there were quad brush rolls. So on each side, there's a gearbox in the middle of the nozzle, and there's posts. So one post, one post, one post, one post. So two on each side. And so there's 4 brush rolls, one front, one back, one front, one back, left and right. And they were a nightmare, absolute nightmare. Like if they came in, you knew for a fact that you were going to have to replace all 4 brushes. And the reason why is because the posts that came out of the gearbox fitted into plastic on the brush roll. So it was like a plastic against metal. If you were using a rubber belt, this wouldn't have been an issue, but it was using a direct drive gearbox. So with a rubber belt, when you hit something and the brush roll slows down, the whole system slows down, right? There's a little bit of give, a little bit of elasticity. You lose some kinetic energy when that happens. With a gearbox, that's not happening. Like it is that post coming out of the gearbox is going to keep turning whether the brush roll wants to or not, and it would just literally just melt down the brush rolls, typically all 4 of them. And you had to replace those. The gearboxes were also problematic. Those also loved to go out and get hair in them, bind up, break teeth. They're just bad. And they had the twin cup bagless technology on those things too. Oh man, they were just horrible machines. I've actually been interested to see. I've never seen. I kind of keep an eye on like used vacuums and whatnot. I haven't seen a V2 since at least 2007. I doubt any have really made it. There's probably a few out there, but yeah, there's not a whole lot. So that's a fun blast from the past, Rick. Christy Taccone is running that company into the ground. I'm sure there'll be more fun stuff to come. I am still a Taccone dealer, so no comment. I will say, and here's something that I love this live stream. I love just talking about stuff I know. I love chatting with you guys, answering your questions. I think it would also be interesting to take this in some different directions as well. You know, not all the time, but I think that if I could get interviews with John from SIBO and Christy from Taccone, I think it would be pretty interesting. That has been on my mind. So if that interests you, let me know, because, you know, obviously I'm not going to be able to get like, you know, what? Who could I not get? Somebody from the Mila family, the family that owns Mila. I'm definitely not going to get one of them on the show, but there are some people that might be willing to do it. So we'll see. But I'm not making any Taccone comments. Let's see. Ooh, I just lost my chat. Hang on. Oh, nuts. Where'd it go? Okay. Mila Blue Moon mistakes were made. Yep. I have a video on it. Ricard's a huge disappointment now. Nothing compared to what they had with the 8000 series, or even the Vibrance machines, Symmetry machines. Good concepts, but the quality isn't there as much, sadly. Yeah. You know, I loved the 8000 series, like an 8955. If anybody knows of a 8955 in the box, don't know why. I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but when they stopped making them, I didn't buy one for myself, and that was stupid. I would love to have a new old stock 8955, or something pretty close to it. But the 8000 series was fantastic. I am not joking when I tell you, like, I sold hundreds of those, if not thousands of those. Like in my shop in Paso, that was basically all I sold. We carried other stuff, but like, man, I cranked out 8,000 series, both the 8850 and then the 8955 when it was replaced. Like, those things were leaving left and right. Great machines. So, but yeah, those actually were retired for a reason. This is actually legit. They were retired because the mold for the nozzles, if you look at the especially later nozzles that were produced, they had some flashing that was ground down kind of where the nozzle comes over to the pivot points. And there were cracks in the mold that they continued to try to repair, and it just got so bad they couldn't repair it, and it wasn't worth, on a model that old, completely remaking molds. So I get why they stopped, and they were a little bit outdated, but man, what a great machine. So I get kind of what they're doing now. They're playing in a different. They're in a difficult position. I'll say this, and I'm not, don't say that I'm like a Tacony fanboy or like sympathizer or whatever. I'm just purely talking like their position in the industry. It's a difficult position because their growth was based on independent dealerships, and um, and so that being said, they stuck with a lot of old designs for way too long. So, in their attempt to make something newer, i.e., the R25s, and really the R50s to some extent, they there were a lot of criticisms and still are. I'm personally not one. I know that, trust me, I was around when the Radiance was released. Like, holy Toledo, if you want, I think anybody at Tacony would back me up on this. If you want a nightmare scenario, the Rad.1, holy Toledo, that thing was bad news. They made them pretty much all right, but there were big problems with that design. They had not worked out the teething issues with that. So much so that we stopped carrying up until I think they were at revision 5. I think we started carrying them again at the Rad.5. So I've seen some Tacony releases that, like the Rad, that had issues. That being said, I have not had any issues with the R25s. I know some people have, and I'm not saying that they haven't. Like, I think I hear some very differing experiences with them. But in terms of something at the price point of, say, $400 or $500, they're all right. It's their niche is not as high in price point as Miele and Sebo. With that comes the difficulty of making a reliable vacuum shop machine, but also bringing it in at a slightly lower price point, and that brings criticisms. So I get both sides. I've seen releases. I know some people have had issues with the R25s. I personally have not. The only issue that I've had was, and this was, again, the very first few of the premium pets that I sold. So it might have even been limited to that particular model. But the lead from the circuit board to the motor was really short. And it faced downwards. So the post from the circuit board comes in like this, and then the spade connector comes in like this. And if somebody dropped their vacuum, or if it just got wiggled or jiggled the right way, that would fall right off the post, and then their vacuum wouldn't turn on. It's a relatively simple fix. That was probably the only big issue that I've had with them so far, but we'll see. Let's see. Sorry, you guys have been talking. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, performance reviews. Don't talk about anything that you're a dealer. And that's why I try to see all sides. Honestly, like I'm still a Tacony dealer. If I had major issues with a company, I wouldn't carry them. And I'm not saying, again, and that is something that's endemic to our industry is that with independent retailers, everybody's going to have an opinion and everybody's going to have a different experience. So I'm not knocking anybody who's had bad experiences with a certain, make or model of vacuum. I'm not fanboying on any manufacturers. I see everything as like very there are some shades of gray. Let's just put it that way. And I like to see both sides of that. So that being said, I don't say, I the areas where I make comments, about like the Radiance back in the day. I mean, like everybody knows what that situation was. That's not going to get me in trouble. And I'm not going to say anything that gets me in trouble, So, love to see interviews. Yeah, get James Dyson, right? Houseplants. John from SIBO. I think John would be an interesting interview. I think he really would be. Alex, let me rephrase. They have good products, designs well. Wish the quality control was better, and I have some ideas I'd love to share with them to fix a few quirks. Yeah, and honestly, I do stand by what I said with regard to Miele, SIBO, and Tacony. If there are issues, they usually take care of them. We are now on revision 2 of the R25, so there were things that were changed. All 3 models are now on revision 2. So I will give them props for that. Even if I did not have issues, if another dealer did, they obviously took that feedback and put it someplace. So again, I'm not like, fanboying out on a brand. I'm just saying like good on them for doing that. That kind of speaks for itself. But yeah, they the more feedback they can get, the better in terms of improving their products for sure. Let's see. I still see some V2s on the Facebook Marketplace and thrift shops. Most of them are completely totaled or in really bad shape. Yeah, Rick. Even if you could, I don't think you can get the brushes anymore. You'd have to hope that they had the revised brushes with the metal receivers. See some interviews. Let's see. Yeah, the 8000 was the pinnacle of a car. I mean, like it's just it's the Muhammad Ali of vacuums, like it just yeah, they're awesome. Alex says that they crack. Let's see. Performance reviews. I have a buddy who works on mold making repairs like $20,000 to $40,000. And I get, I get performance reviews, why $20,000 to $40,000 for mold repair. And I think they did have it repaired, but the crack kept reoccurring. I don't know if that's the thing. That's just what I heard. So I am not like a tool and die guy like you are. But I also get the point of like getting to the point where it's like we're gonna put another $40,000 into this product line, or we can put that $40,000 towards R&D for another vacuum. What are you gonna choose? It was pretty long in the tooth. The 4000 series or R series was pretty long in the tooth. They really needed to do something. Whether or not you like the R25 is kind of personal preference, I think. But it's like everything else. You change or you die. So let's see here. Not a huge Riccar fan in general, but the 8900 and Vibrants are some of my favorite uprights. They're great. Yeah. Alex, I enjoy the R25 series, but I'd love to change a couple things with the R10 series. Same with the R10 series. Yeah. I've had a few issues with the R25 series, but they've been easy fixes and they're easy to work on. Yeah, they're not complicated machines. Like they're definitely not a tandem air, that's for sure. The R25s are surprisingly easy to get in and out of, like lickety split. And again, the only issue that I've had so far are motor leads. So I haven't had any motors go bad. Haven't had any brush rolls. No, brush roll drive motors. Everything's been pretty limited to leads issues. My dad might have. Yeah, I don't think he did. I think it's all been leads issues. And that the lead was just too short. Like that was just a design. And I'd be interested to see if the Mark IIs have a longer lead on the motor and better crimping. Let's see here. Upgrade a few parts on a used Rad 1 I own. The old one is more of a cool vacuum than a good vacuum. Yeah, Rad.1s are chances are if you have one that's still alive, it was one of the updated ones. So like there were dealer notices for everything. The brush rolls, the nozzle housing, the circuit boards, the direct air motor, just wholesale replacing the direct air motor because of a design flaw. So like you could get all that fixed for free, and a lot of people did because they had an issue, and those things came with like a 7-year warranty or something like that. Really long warranty, and it was definitely guaranteed to have issues within those 7 years. So I think a lot of folks had those taken care of already. And if it has the updates, they're usually pretty decent. Let's see. Shark Vertex is a joke when they compare it to SIBO on their informational. Oh, good grief, the Shark Vertex. You guys have seen my little snippet, my short. I've been testing this Shark Vertex. What a hunk of junk, man. Like, I'll tell you more in the video, but it's a nightmare. Wouldn't talk much more about that stuff on stream if you want to be a dealer. Let's see. Alex, ironically, it was the R25 too. Lots of great options. SIBO's an amazing vacuum brand. What would you say is the worst condition vac you've worked on? Mine's the Olympia 1 that sat in a barn for decades. After wiring up a cord, it sounded like it was a dying seal. Man, I've seen some really nasty vacuums. 2 come to mind. One is just generally any restaurant vacuum. Most particularly, I used to work on the fleets of vacuums for like a particular Mexican restaurant chain, and oh man, the Kirby cake on those was just, oh man, just so rancid, so bad. I hated those, and I think they made more of an impression than they actually would have normally because I worked on so many of them. That being said, there was one vacuum. I mean, dog pee and that kind of stuff is pretty par for course. If I get into a vacuum and it has like dog poop in it, like I tell them to come pick it up. I'm not doing that. I don't get paid enough to do that. And there was one that came out of a barn that sticks with me that was, I'm not kidding, like every square inch of it. It was a old sanitaire, like chrome hood sanitaire. It was full of spiders, and like full of spiders. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like, I had to keep an eye on the perimeter around the workbench because they were just like all crawling away, like so many spiders. Like, and this was when I was probably 18, so like I didn't know any better. I was like, I just gotta do this because that's my job. I should have called them and had them pick it up. It had been in a barn, same as you, and it was nasty, just so bad. Yeah, I hear your performance reviews. Not saying you should have repaired it. I'm saying it's expensive, but to be cost effective, it's too expensive to be cost effective. Yeah, for sure. All those companies that Carrie mentioned usually make things very repairable. Yeah, and that's kind of my main criteria for what I carry is like, is it repairable? Can I get parts for it? Like, if I can't, I'm not going to carry it. Like, even if I could buy Sharks, I wouldn't carry them because I can't get parts for them. So I can't support what I sell, and that to me is the whole point of buying at a local dealer, so they can support what you sell, or so they can support what they sell. Let's see. Alex, one last time on my soapbox. Tacony has revised a bit. I'm glad to see they're listening. Yeah, it's interesting to think of the R25 as a culmination of the Electrolux upright. Yeah, it definitely has that like kind of design DNA in it. What do you think of the Miele Blizzard vacuum? I kind of mentioned it at the beginning of the show. The Blizzard is not my favorite. I think, how do I put this? Again, going back to trying to give companies and consumers both equal credence. The Blizzard, in my opinion, shows that it's a first generation product. And that's not bad because Miele, it is their first generation bagless. So that's somewhat to be expected. But it does show that in the cup and filtration technology that it uses. I think that the cylindrical filter, no matter how many times you try to dress it up and try to change what it's made out of and change whether or not it's like automatically cleaned, it's always going to be an inferior design. So do I look forward to seeing what they come out with a V2 of their bagless? For sure. I'm interested to see those their little compact bagless machines. I mean, I have no idea what's in there. I've not seen a breakdown of them, so I don't know what their filtration system is like or how they do it. And so that may be our first glimpse of what a Gen 2 looks like. But they're okay. If I had to have a bagless canister, I would certainly buy a Blizzard over other options because the other options are really bad. Like even the Dyson canisters are they're bad news. They're really bad. But that brush roller design is horrible. Not sure what you're talking about. Performance reviews, the brush roll design. House of Vacuum Shark is junk. Cash in the trash. Yep, for sure. Wait, seafood Kirby cake is the worst. Oh man, I hadn't even thought about seafood Kirby cake. Ooh, that's nasty. I can't even. Nope, man. I wouldn't do it. Yeah, man. I used to dig in those vacuums with my bare hands. You know how I wear gloves now in all my videos? Like I've gotten more particular as I get older, but man, like when I was a kid doing these things, man, just full bare hands like into the Kirby cake and the pea and just all that. Kind of grosses me out now. Let's see. Alex, performance reviews put it perfectly. Shark is the Bic lighter of the vac market. Yep, that's exactly right. It is. It's the disposable. It's the Bic lighter or the Bic stick pen. Don't understand why people think that power fins actually clean carpet better than a brush roll. Oh yeah. The power fins don't. Like they're so bad and they're so loud. They're so freaking loud. They just slap at us. They're just constantly slapping the housing. It drives me bonkers. I don't know how anybody vacuums with that without losing their minds. Don't understand. Oh, talking about that Hoover with the direct drive. Yeah. Yeah, that's what you were talking about. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to keep all the tracks straight. Well, guys, it has been an hour and 3/4. So I've got some things to do to wrap up here. But we will talk more in 2 weeks. Thanks for your feedback on some of the ideas for the channel. Thanks for chit-chatting with me. I always enjoy it. So I'm just honored that I have people actually show up and want to talk. So I just don't take that for granted. So I really appreciate you guys. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. And have a great night. I'll see you next time.